Hello, welcome to your yoga practice. Today we're going to focus on slowing down and improving our flexibility. If you have a couple of yoga blocks, you can go ahead and keep those close by. And then when you're ready, meet me in a child's pose. So the big toes will be touching, knees as wide as you need to. Lower down to the mat. And if that forehead doesn't comfortably come to the mat, you can stack your fists like I am and just rest your head on top. I invite you to close your eyes. And let's take a moment to scan our body from head to toe, being mindful of any areas that might feel tight or tender today. As we work on our flexibility, we want to be mindful that we work within a safe range of motion for our bodies. And just listen to your body. It'll let you know if you start to take it too far. Now begin to extend your arms forward onto the mat. Start to spread the fingers and then walk the arms over to the right side. You're going to find more of a length through the left side of the body here. And you can either keep your hands separated, or perhaps if you have a little bit more space, stack that left hand on top of the right. And really breathe all through that side body, opening up through the rib cage. Taking nice, long, deep breaths throughout this practice. And then begin to walk the hands over to the other side. Continue to press into both hands. You can maybe shift your hips in the opposite direction. So we're trying to find what I call, your edge, that place where you find that lengthening, find that stretch, but you can maintain staying there. It's not so uncomfortable that you are starting to hold your breath or, clench up. And that breath will help, especially on that exhale. Just relax, let it go. And then once again, extend both arms forward, pressing in even into the fingers, hips remain back, lengthen all through that back side body, through the arms. And then rise up into a tabletop. So we're going to bring the knees in, right under the hips, shoulders over wrist. Extend the right leg out. We're going to take the left toes under and start to rock back and forward. And so the toes of the right foot are facing forward. And then bring the hips right over that knee and start to walk your arms forward. We're going to drop into puppy dog pose. So we keep the hips up and we drop the chest close to the floor. And again, we're pressing into the hands. Begin to walk the hands back in. We're going to lift up, going into gate pose. Reach your left arm over the head and up, and then lean over that right leg. So again, you want to focus on the extension first before you start leaning over. Coming out of the pose, let's step back and come into our first downward facing dog and start to pedal out your feet. Just alternate bending your knees. So now we start to lengthen to the back of the legs. And then hold your pose, downward facing dog with the hips lifting, belly pulling in. The chest is like it's pressing back towards the thighs. And then begin to bend the knees. You're going to come back into that tabletop position. This time extending the left leg out, right toes down into the mat, start to rock it back and forward. With the hips over that knee, walk the arms out, lowering the chest for puppy dog pose, just a variation here. Walking the hands back in, lifting up, gate pose, right arm extends, lengthen it up and over. Coming out of the pose, hands to the mat. So this time, I want you to bring the knees hip distance apart. The toes are tucked down into the mat. See if you can drop your hips back onto the heels. Bring those arms into a goal post and take the right arm underneath the left for eagle arms. So back of the hands or palms touching. And we start to open up through that upper back. And as you lift the elbows, you'll feel likely a more intense stretch. So again, just find your pose. We're going to release. Now the tops of the feet are going to press into the mat, hips onto the heels, goalpost arms, and this time left arm underneath right. And lift your elbows. Releasing and coming into downward facing dog. So the hands are shoulder distance apart, feet hip distance. Moving into a wide down dog, just take your feet to the edges of the mat. They're still going forward. Hips still lifting up high. Long, deep breaths. Now begin to walk the hands backwards towards the feet. Cradle your elbows in the opposite palm, moving into a wide ragdoll pose. Relax your head and neck so the top of the head is reaching for the floor, and then start to maybe sway side to side. Then finding stillness here in the center, hang heavy, release. Releasing the elbows, turn the toes wide. Begin to drop your hips into a yogi squat or malasana pose. Hands at prayer at your hearts. So this is a good place. You could stack a couple blocks to rest your hips on if you needed. Back nice and straight. Lift the hips, turn those toes forward, wide forward fold. And then walking it out to a plank, bringing the feet back in. Lower your body to the mat. Hands by the chest, lift into Cobra pose. So after we do all of that folding forward, now we're going to do the opposite direction. open up the chest. Your shoulders are down your back. Releasing the chest back to the mat. We're going to do that pose one more time. As you inhale, lift into that Cobra pose. Shoulders are down. And release. Press back to downward facing dog. Hips come high. Lifting the right leg up. Step the right foot between the hands. We're going to come into a runner's lunge. So this is a great place for blocks. You can bring the floor up to you. Back nice and straight. Keep pressing through that back heel. Lowering the knee to the mat. You can release that foot if you'd like. Reach your arms over your head and pressing the hips forward. Bringing the hands down to the floor or a block. Bring that right arm forward, lengthen. Now see what happens if you bend that back leg. So just see if that's too intense, stay, or reach the hand back, grabbing onto the foot. Great stretch for the front of the thigh and the hip flexors. Also opening up that right shoulder. And gently come out of that pose, lift the back knee. We're going to rise up, warrior two, extending the arms. So glance down, look at your knee. You want to be sure it's not collapsing. We want a nice stretch here for the thigh and that inner thigh, extending the arms. Straightening the legs, triangle pose, so lengthen out of both side body, align over that forward leg, triangle pose. Lifting up. Turn the toes forward, standing straddle, lengthen your spine, and then hinge over into that straddle. Reaching for the outsides of the feet. And again, top of the head, reaching for the floor. Notice the weight on your feet. If it's all back on the heels, can you perhaps bring it a little bit more forward? Begin to walk back to the front of the mat, stepping back to downward facing dog. You're welcome here to bring any movement into the body, maybe pedaling out your feet. And then come into down dog, lifting the left leg, stepping the left foot between the hands, coming into that runner's lunge. I'm going to use my blocks on this side as well. So that's a big step for a lot of people. So just be sure, however you get in this position, that you want the heel down and knee over ankle. Lowering the back knee, releasing the foot, lift the arms up, and gently guide your hips forward. Bringing the hands down to either side of the foot. We're going to see what happens if we bend that back leg and the left arm reaches forward. And again, we're just finding our edge, so maybe this is it, or reach back, hand to foot, adding that twist. Releasing, lifting that back knee, warrior two. Shoulders are stacked right over the hips. Triangle pose, straighten the legs, lean over. So oftentimes people think they have to touch the ground. You do not need to do that. What's most important here is alignment over that forward leg. Great place for a block. I just place my hand on my shin. So whatever works for you. Lift up, turn those toes forward. So this time we're going to bind our hands behind the back. If this does not work for you, grabbing your elbows is totally acceptable. So come into whatever expansion for the chest and shoulders works for you, and then come in back into that standing straddle. Again, top of the head reaching for the floor. Deep breaths. Taking the hands to the floor, walk to the front of your mat, and step the foot forward, and then meet me on the seated position on your mat. So we're going to move into a seated twist. We're going to begin with the right leg forward, and the left we're going to cross over. So I'm trying to get you not only the twist, but more of a stretch here in the outer part of the hip. So the right arm will reach up. I'm gonna start you by just grabbing that leg, pulling it in, and going into your twist. If you have more space, you're welcome to hook that elbow. But again, you're trying to bring that leg in because I really want you to feel a stretch here as well. Moving out of the twist, we're going to switch sides. Left leg extends, cross the right leg over. Sit up nice and tall, wrap that arm around the leg, pull it in towards the body. And you're turning your gaze over your right shoulder. Begin to extend both legs out, toes are up. Sit up nice and tall, reach your arms over the head. Hinge forward from your hips, coming into that forward fold. Draw your heart forward. So we're trying to come out of that low back, then round backwards. We want to come forward. And begin to roll down, nice and slow. Bringing the knees into the chest, hands to the shins. Then lift the ankles over the knees, peace fingers around the big toes, thumbs on top, happy baby pose. So try to neutralize your spine. So press the entire spine from the top to the bottom down onto the mat. And knees to chest. Give yourself a little massage, rocking side to side, or maybe draw some circles. Switching your direction. Placing the feet down, drop the knees open, reclining butterfly. Hands resting on your midsection. Try to relax your hips. Deep breaths. Extending the legs, resting your arms at your sides. Take the legs a little wider than the hips. Allow the feet to relax and drop away from each other. Closing your eyes. I want you to take 3 long, deep breaths. Inhaling 1, 2, 3. Hold it. Let it go. 1, 2, 3. Again, deep breath in. Hold it. Deep breath out. Last one. Deep breath in. Hold it. Let it all go. Bringing the knees in. Roll to your side. Pause here for just a moment, and like we did in the beginning, take this time, scan the body head to toe. Hopefully any tension or tightness that you had is gone, or at least better. Tell yourself a good job for showing up for class today, and then help yourself up to have a seat. We're going to end with one breath together. Reach the arms up over the head. Bringing the palms together at your heart. From my heart to yours, namaste. Thank you so much for joining me for this practice, and hopefully you'll join me in another class again soon. Have a blessed day.